Have you ever overreacted, or maybe someone close to you has overreacted? A lot of times, what's taking place in these moments is you or the other person might be experiencing a trigger. I want to break down in this video for you what that is and ultimately how you can learn from your triggers to experience massive growth. Now, if you and I have not met yet, my name is Troy, and I want to help you build a beautiful life. So, a lot of times, what's taking place when someone is triggered, essentially, it's a situation that might normally feel like a level 2 or a level 3 in intensity, but to you or this person in that moment feels like a level 10. As an example, one of the challenges I went through early in my life was I started a business around the age of 22, built this business up, ended up losing the business during the recession of 2008. And so I had a lot of trauma around money for a period of time. And so I remember one time I was starting a new business. Like I was coming out the other end here. I'm starting to regrow, build this new business. And in that moment, I remember I bought something that was the wrong part. And I spent about $100. It was the wrong part. I get it, I receive it. And it was like, you would have thought I lost all the money I'd ever made. You would have thought the world was collapsing. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I did this. Da, da, da. But right around this time, I was starting to learn more about triggers. I started to learn more about trauma. Because when you experience trauma, what takes place is oftentimes you get these big imprints that kind of get stuck in your biological system. And so what it looks like is your brain goes on high alert, a very primal and primitive emotion. And so imagine even, let's say you got lost in a grocery store when you're a kid and you get separated from your parents. In that moment, to you, it was everything. It was massive. You start to scream, you start to cry. Like imagine even that now, like a situation that would cause you to scream or to cry and shake. Maybe you have experienced those. And oftentimes as adults, we still do have those moments. But imagine that even as a child, to you in that moment, it was massive. It might have created an imprint of fear, of insecurity, like you're not lovable, like something's wrong. But the reality was, parents just kind of got lost. They had their own stuff going on, whatever. But you might look at it now and go, oh, it wasn't that big of a deal. So you can't judge your trauma from a place that you might look at it today. But you can learn from it from today with a different perspective. And I'll break down what that means in a second. So going back to this story, I buy the wrong part. I start to panic. I start to freak out. You would have thought the world was collapsing. Oh my God, what's going on? But I start to learn around this time about trauma. I'm kind of going into my own body and feeling certain things. And I start to ask myself the question like, okay, yeah, this sucks, like $100. I'd like to have that $100, but what am I really upset about here? And I kind of like, what's the story I'm telling myself around this situation? So I was experiencing a trigger. So most people, you maybe get upset. $100 sucks, right? But to me, it was a level 10. It was like if there was a level 11, it was a level 11. I was freaking out. So I'm like, something's off. Like it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Like this sucks, but there's, I could return it. There's things I could do, whatever. So I start to go in. What's the story? What am I telling myself about this situation? And what starts to come up is, when I lost my business, it was like this feeling of, there's multiple feelings, right? But one of them was this massive feeling of scarcity, like there wasn't enough resources and there were limited resources. And when there's limited resources, man, you got to fight for your peace, right? You got to be precise. You can't make mistakes. There's any little decision is wasteful. Like these are not healthy constructs to carry, by the way. These are very limiting beliefs. And so I realized I was telling myself that same story. Like you got to be precise. You can't make mistakes. There's limited resources. I'm like, whoa. Like by doing that, I'm not allowing God, the universe, myself, I'm not putting in power, any trust in myself, anything bigger than myself. Essentially, I'm dialing it down to making these little decisions and having to be perfect. And what a tight path to drive through. It's very difficult. And so that moment I experienced a trigger, and also that trigger brought me closer to myself, brought me deeper into what was in my own way, what was blockading my success, my growth at that point. And so I was able to go, hey, it's okay. There's plenty of opportunities. You'll make more money. There's things you can do. Let this go a little bit. What else might you be telling yourself? Also, I was telling myself, like that inner dialogue. Oh, like, you idiot. You got to be perfect. You can't make mistakes like that. Who are you? You should know better. I listen to that inner dialogue, all this stuff. I was like, whoa, painful. And what happens a lot of times is I always say you want to learn how to get out of your own way. So that's an example of me being in my own way, or you being in your own way when you have that inner dialogue. Like, why would you want to step out and do anything new, want to create something if you have that kind of inner dialogue? Like at that level I was at, I was just starting a new business. Like I wasn't even that deep into it. And I was getting bombarded with this inner dialogue, like, ugh. But a lot of it was from that conditioning that I experienced through the loss in the past. And so I realized like, yo, I'm different today than even yesterday. I'm certainly different today than I was 5, 7, whatever it was years ago when that took place. I've learned I can handle this differently. I'll make different decisions. That experience is very valuable. And that was me quieting and kind of getting it's not, I was going to say control, but it's not getting control. It's coming to grips, creating peace with the inner dialogue. A lot of your success, a lot of your growth in life will be in direct correlation to your inner dialogue. And so learning to really connect with the inner dialogue and be kind to yourself. That's a lot of like, when people say like self-love, it's seems like vague at sometimes. Like, how do you, where is it? Like, how do I love myself? This is part of it, right? Like learning to like, yo, it's okay. I don't have to be perfect. Like I have kids and maybe some of you have kids. And if you don't, maybe you will someday. And you can even imagine, right? Would you want to talk to your kids like that? Like, hey, you have to be perfect. You can't make any mistakes. Oh, how dare you mess that up? Even though you are brand new at this and you bought the wrong thing. Look at the inner dialogue we often use, but you do that for yourself. What are you doing? Stop, right? And so as you're moving through life, one, you're going to experience your triggers. You're also going to experience them from other people. We'll talk about that in a second as well. And so allow your journey in life and you stepping out and challenging yourself to be more than just what's on the outside. Remember the outside, you want to pursue status, you want to pursue money, you want to pursue success, whatever that is, all very cool. But what I don't want you to miss is the opportunity to grow through these experiences. And so there'll be situations where you feel uncomfortable. You feel like a dork. You feel like you made a mistake. You feel like you're not perfect. You feel like you're not lovable, whatever. But this is your opportunity to learn and grow. And so you experience these triggers and go, man, why am I so triggered by this situation? Why am I so triggered by this person? Oh, I don't have boundaries. Oh, I haven't fully accepted and loved myself as I am. Oh, I expect myself to be perfect. Oh, I have people-pleasing tendencies. Whatever it is, hand is up to all of these things, right? This is all stuff I have worked through, and a lot of it still have to work through. It's a continual, right? I don't know that we ever arrive. Like two ways to look at that. You've arrived, and also you're always growing. Probably the best way to look at it. And so, I continue on this journey, make the mistake, buy the wrong part. And then later on, I remember experiencing other things where I'd make a mistake or I would, whatever it was, maybe money didn't come in as fast. Or I'd get hit with that, that bill that just pops up out of nowhere and you're not ready for. But I could ease my grip on a little bit because I had kind of navigated the inner dialogue. I'm like, we'll be all right, man. Whatever happens, we'll get through it. It's okay. Just allow, keep going, keep flowing. And that loosening, right, that letting go process allowed me to continue. And the continuance is what you need. You need distance, right? You need distance and consistency. That's the most important thing. But you can't get distance. You can't get consistency if you're going to beat yourself up along the way. You'll just get exhausted. You'll burn out. And so coming to grips with that inner dialogue and allowing your triggers to expand your growth is very valuable. A trigger is essentially like this primitive energy. It's your body being stuck in fight, flight, or freeze. And that's how your body responds to trauma. It's no different than an animal would, right? Like we are, our DNA is 98% chimpanzee. So whether you believe in evolution or not, it doesn't really matter. Just like there's a lot of similarities, right? We have a lot of similarities. So we have a lot of primitive primal energy in us. And, fight, flight, or freeze is if I experience a trauma, I need to fight against it. If I can't fight against it, I'll run from it or I'll freeze. I'll just play dead. And so those are kind of your trauma responses. But what's unique about the human mind is it's like there's no switch that says, hey, that's over. We're good. We don't have to worry about that anymore. Your brain oftentimes gets stuck in those states and you remain on high alert. In fact, I was watching, I experienced loads of trauma throughout my life, and selfish plug here, my upcoming book, Scars, you're going to learn a lot about it. It'd be very valuable for you. You'll get a lot of insights into this kind of stuff and more. But there was a time, I was watching a video recently, there was a time in my life where you could see my eyes like bugging out of my head. And it's because I was stuck in high alert, like literally just stuck in that energy. I had a lot of stress hormones, cortisol messed up my stomach, digestive system, all kinds of stuff. It took a lot of time to reverse that and really work through those things. But ultimately, it gave me great insight into what a trigger is, and then ultimately how to use them for your growth. And those triggers then became my tools. So much so that I use triggers to grow and expand into life. And then I would seek out situations to invoke triggers. So I would do certain things to feel the trigger and go, oh man, why do I feel tight? Why do I feel like my breath tightened up? These are all signs you're being triggered. Why do I feel overly emotional in this situation? What's going on here? What's the story I'm telling myself? Go in, feel, learn, grow, expand. Okay, so that's an idea of what's taking place often when you're experiencing these triggers and how you can use them. And also, you're going to notice when other people oftentimes are experiencing a trigger. And so we tend to look at things at face value. So say someone freaks out at you and you just kind of react right back. Well, one of the cool things about what you and I are talking about right now is you learn to respond versus react in life. And that's really what you want. You want to be able to respond in situations. That will change, just that simple quality will change the nature of your life and therefore change your destiny. So again, to not react, but to respond to situations. So say someone throws something at you that's heavy, right? It's a lot of emotions, whatever. Reacting is just reacting back with the same energy, but you can't solve a problem at the same paradigm was created in. So they yell at you and I yell back. That's not necessarily going to solve it. Rather, look and ask yourself this question. What might they be experiencing? What is the story they're telling themselves about this situation? So oftentimes what you'll see in someone, like I'm doing this all the time, like whether I'm doing it in my coaching, whether I'm doing it just in real life, day-to-day situations, and I notice someone that's having that experience where something seems like it should be a level 2 or 3 in intensity, but to them it's a level 10. I ask myself the question, what is the story they're telling themselves about this? And so what it might mean is you might say, hey, would you mind cleaning up your room? As an example, right? And you really mean, would you mind cleaning up a room and be of company coming over that night, whatever. But what they might hear is, I'm messy. And because I'm messy, I'm not lovable. And since I'm not lovable, I'm not enough. Like that's a whole chain of events that could be taking place. And so you see them overreact. Well, I'm trying, I've been busy. And you go, hey, you're doing a great job. I really appreciate it. We got some people come over tonight. So it just helps. Clean space, clean environment, kind of helps me with my mind, puts me at ease a little bit, lowers my anxiety. So it's no big deal. If you would just mind doing that, that'd be really helpful. Oh, yeah, no problem. Sure. That's you responding when they're reacting. And so always ask the question, what did they hear? What's the story they're telling themselves? Because that's really what's taking place when you're being triggered. It's reminding you of an old moment. So for me, right, when I spent the $100 or wasted it, bought the wrong parts, what I was telling myself was a story of the past. Oh, look at, you're not ready for this. What are you doing going back into business? You're too stupid for this. You're going to, you need to be perfect to do these things. How dare you make a foolish decision like this? You're so wasteful, like all that stuff. So that's what I was telling myself. I was able to go inward and kind of see that. Most people don't have that awareness. Hopefully videos like this and you responding to them will help with this more. But we need to get to know ourselves. And then ultimately, once you do that, it gives you empathy because you start to see in other people. And so that's a big point right there, like the empathetic heart, because it gets you out of your head and more into your heart. We relate to one another. I can feel what they may be going through. I've been there. I see myself in them. And then you go, hey, man, hey, don't take it personal. It's nothing to do with you. Do you feel like maybe I was saying this? Well, what I actually meant was that. This will help you in relationships, like especially your intimate relationships, your friendships, even communication in business, work. Like what is the person maybe hearing when you say that, right? Like one of the examples I use is, let's say you're at work. There's two people at work, let's say, and boss comes up and they're like, hey, would you mind staying late tonight? One person, what they hear, they're like, oh man, this sucks. This place is always making me work more. I really wanted to go out tonight. I was looking forward to that. Another person, they come up and say, hey, would you mind working late tonight? And they're like, oh my God, yeah, absolutely. In their mind, they're like, man, they love me. They think that much of me. They'd ask me to stay late. I get to make some extra money. How cool. So do you see how just the way someone perceives the world, same message, same situation, two different realities. So that's always taking place in communication. And so it's these inner dialogues, the subconscious process that's always at play. So allow your triggers to teach you, right? That'll help you grow, help you expand, help you heal as well. Beautiful things. And it puts you into your heart more, gets you out of your head. Ultimately, you want to build this bridge between your head and your heart. There's communication there versus just being in the head, right? The head is good for certain things. The brain is powerful, but being in the heart is a beautiful thing. And I want you to kind of learn to connect that heart space. And this is part of it. It'll put you in your heart and it'll build empathy. So you can feel, you can relate to other people. And then ultimately the last step is just that. You relate to others. You see when they're reacting and you don't react back. Your partner, your spouse, your friend, someone just in society, whatever it is, you see them reacting and you know right away like, oh, like this is their trauma energy speaking. It's not even them really. And so you calmly respond. If you have to set up boundaries, protect yourself, right? Whatever, that kind of stuff. But you can tell people in those situations, like, hey, do you feel like I'm saying this? I'm not saying that. I'm just literally asking you, would you mind doing X, Y, and Z? And it's no big deal, blah, 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 right? That'll help your communication so much and help you grow. So I hope this helped. Make sure you head over to my website, troyfontana.co. Pick up some powerful resources there that are absolutely free. And of course, like, share, subscribe. Send this to somebody who might benefit from hearing this. I love you so much. Until next time, peace.